Aron, thank you for joining me, man. It's been a while, but Britney Spears is back on the news, so I wanted to reconnect with you. Apparently she's releasing a memoir, and some former flames are now trying to block her from releasing, trying to see the content before it's released. Aron, I want to hear your thoughts about it. Then I have a few questions for you.
So first of all, this all came from a USA Today Sun. So basically the US version of the Sun tabloid in the UK. They published this last week that Collin, Farrell, and Justin Timberlake were seeking to block publication of the memoir. Since then, they've actually printed a second piece that kind of basically says, listen, we're not just, taking the story back, but in our opinion, the information we got really wasn't the best information. So they're not saying it's fake. Nonetheless, I think it's worth, at least as an intellectual exercise, playing it out because the publication of the memoir was delayed. So there's got to be something behind that. And, we might turn around and put this out to, watchers, and 2 days later, they come back and say, actually, it was true. They were delaying getting this thing out. So I think it's interesting. I mean, Britney on her Instagram and other social has been talking about her memoir. She's been saying it's the opportunity she's been waiting for to tell all of her stories straight. So it's understandable that if Britney's going to be a straight shooter, that there might be people in her life or who were in her life before who might have some issues with the information she's putting out.
Very interesting. So let's start with facts, okay?
Yeah.
What would cause a delay on a memoir like this, especially since it's been highly anticipated? There was a date, and then now it's not going to be that date. It's going to be pushed back a little. How common is this, and is this unusual in your mind?
It's not unusual for a publication date on a book to be delayed. It's a little bit unusual given the fact that reports show that Britney Spears was paid $15 million, which is a good amount of money to do this memoir. Now, if the delays were actually because of somebody having an issue with the content, I mean, that itself isn't abnormal either. There's all kinds of leaks when somebody writes a book. So let's say, just at least hypothetically at this point, that somebody like Justin Timberlake learned about a leak that, was in the book and said, whoa, this portrays me in such a bad light. And I feel that what might have been brought up here is potentially defamatory. I could see him, talking to Britney's representatives and talking to the publisher and saying, if this comes out in publication form, the way that it was leaked and I read it, then everyone's going to have a legal problem. And then everybody could put this thing on pause while they figure out the best course of action.
Okay, so now let's get to if Britney were to put something that was negative about these two, former boyfriends or former relationship partners, how much can they block this information? What measures? Because we do have freedom of speech, right? She has the right to tell her side of story. Justin Timberlake has a song called "Cry Me a River," which, anyone can interpret in any number of ways about her character and probably see it negatively. So can't she do the same?
Sure. So none of her ex-boyfriends or anybody in her life has the opportunity to block publication. The only way a block comes out is if they would be threatening the publisher and saying, you're publishing defamatory content. I'm putting you on warning with a cease and desist letter that if you go ahead and publish this, there's going to be trouble. And then the publisher might say, you know what, we're going to put this on pause, Britney, for a few weeks while we figure out what's going on. So that's one way that could happen. Again, the greatest defense to defamation is the truth. Right. So there's a chance that Justin Timberlake or Collin Farrell or who knows who might find things in Britney's book that they object to. But if Britney reasonably believes them to be true or knows them to be true, then she's probably going to be fine. Again, she might have to say to the publisher, well, listen, the thing that Justin Timberlake is upset about is true, and here's evidence showing that it's true. And then the publisher would say, all right, then there we go.
What if there was a lack of evidence and it's all hearsay, and she she believes it to be true, and there's plausible deniability on the side of the other two to come out and say, oh, she's being slanderous and defamatory, and she has no evidence because it's all hearsay. What happens in that scenario?
Those who believe they were defamed could sue. And then it's up to not us in the court of public opinion, but it's up to a real judge to decide whether Britney defamed them. The standard for defamation is higher for public figures, meaning that we're allowed to say more things about public figures, not just because of freedom of speech, although that's part of it, but because that's part of being a public figure. Part of what comes along with it is people are going to say things about you. People are going to say things like, given Elon Musk's stewardship of Twitter, now X, it looks like he might be losing his mind. And, he's certainly free to defend that. It's very, very different if we say that about, a private person who believes they've been injured by that kind of statement. So it really depends on the content here. And again, at this point, we have no idea of, what the content is. And we don't have definitive proof that those two ex-boyfriends being mentioned are the ones who want to seek, to stop the publication.
Right. So that makes a lot of sense. What do you think? How do you think this is going to play out, Aron? Do you think that there is a delay now in the release of the memoir? What do you think that it's just going to be a short delay, or and when it comes out, how do you think this book is going to be received? And with a lot of reports of, really, that, like you said, the court of public opinion judging Britney harshly. And I've really seen a lot of things that I say, wow, that's kind of unreasonable. But once again, she's a public figure, so people can say what they want. But there's been, just a lot of questions on her mental health and her videos dancing around, and then now she's pulled some of her social media accounts. I want to hear your thoughts about kind of the state of the state, basically.
So I'm going to say this from the publisher's perspective, because the publisher here is, aside from Britney, is really the one that could get in the most trouble by publishing. I expect more delays. I don't know if these delays on the memoir are going to be significant, because while I support Britney and I supported her throughout the conservatorship, I've also seen a lot of the posts that you've mentioned on social media, including the dancing posts and whatever. And again, Britney's an adult. She can do whatever she wants. If I'm the publisher looking at those posts, I want to be really, really sure that what I'm putting out with my publisher's name on this book is solid and probably isn't going to land me in court. If I'm convinced of that now, then that's fine. The book goes ahead without further delays. But if two people allegedly came out of the woodwork saying, I've got issues, what about other people that Britney are going to mention? Certainly her family is going to be mentioned in her book. And her family, we know, are litigious and would have no problem trying to sue to get part of Britney's estate.
And
So I
they're
think
not
the
public
public,
people, right?
exactly, that's right. So I think that the idea that it's going to come out, early in the fall is probably a little bit ambitious at this point. Britney has been working with a good ghostwriter, and I think that the end result of this is probably going to be Britney's opportunity to set the record straight from her perspective. I think that the Britney army and Britney's fans all over the world are going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be well written. And if anybody has a real issue with it and feels that there are harmful factual things in it, then they can go ahead and sue.
Awesome. And from a just a lay perspective, what do you think the topics she will cover in the book are? Do you think that there's going to be a lot of rehashing on the family? I think you're just judging by her social media posts, there seems to still be a lot of residue hurt, and including the post she had about her son. And I believe her kids are now over the age of 18, so I think she can talk very freely about them. Do you think there's going to be a lot of coverage in in the content of the book on her family? And then also I think it's weird to mention some of the because they were not significant relationships so much, maybe Justin Timberlake as far as a fellow peer in the industry, but I would think she would stay away from even those topics because she would, maybe focus on more on the family, there's conservatorship, and then also, maybe the marriage with, because she had to co-parent with Kevin Federline all these years. Where do you think those topics are going to end up landing as far as the content of the book goes?
I think if people really closely look at the topics she covers on social media, she's probably going to dramatically expand upon those in a book, right? I mean, people write about social media on social media about the topics they care about. So I think every single topic that you touched on, Mark, is something that she's going to expand upon. I think the center of the book is going to be the effects of her life during the conservatorship as she was being placed into a conservatorship. And now, she said very freely that she knows she can go out there and make a lot of money, but she's very turned off the idea of going on tour. And we're going to find out some of the reasons why in this book, I'm sure. And then I think she's going to shed some light into hopefully positive, but also a lot of negative relationships that she's had in her life because of the position of vulnerability she's been in.
Sounds good. Any final words, Aron? I think we covered a lot of ground here, and I'm super excited to get this information out for a lot of people who are kind of, don't understand the publishing world and also the process of releasing a book. So I think you gave us a lot of good information here. But anything else you want to add? Maybe plug your website, Today's Esquire.
Sure. I think people, if they want to look at more of this kind of stuff where the law intersects with life, go to todaysesquire.com. And if you go into the archives and type in Britney, you're going to find lots of stuff to read.
Awesome. Thank you, Aron. Today's
Thanks, Mark. Have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.